Hello everyone, my name is Tim Blackmon and I'm here to talk to you about effective ways to practice triads. So what is a triad? A triad is one of the most basic building blocks of music, and basically it's a three note stacked chord. So here's a triad in root position. Now here's a triad in first inversion. Now here's a triad in second inversion. You want to make sure that you can practice your triads in all three different ways: root position, first inversion, and second inversion. So how can you begin to expand this idea into some jazz language? I got an idea: using enclosures. So what is an enclosure? In its simplest form, it's encircling a note. Imagine if I had a target note, for instance, C on the trumpet. What an enclosure does is places a note on top and below, basically encircling the note like this. My target note is C. To do an enclosure on C, I would do something like this. You see that? I went a whole step up, a diatonic whole step, and then I went a half step below and then landed right into my target note. Here it is again. That's on the root, right? So you want to be able to do this for the third and the fifth as well. When you start getting comfortable, you can up the tempo and maybe even try some different rhythmic ideas. So you want to make sure that you practice all your triads in all 12 keys, major and minor, and diminished and augmented if you can. Let's continue talking about triads. So in a major key, there are 7 possible triads, and you want to make sure that you know the qualities of them. So let's go through them a little bit. Here is the triad built off of the root, or the 1. I just played it up and down, so that's a major triad. Now let's build a triad off of the 2, the second scale degree of the major scale. That's a minor triad, so 2 is minor. Let's go to the third. 3 is also minor. Let's go to the fourth now. 4 is major. Let's go to 5. 5 is also major, also a very important triad. Let's go to 6. 6 is minor, and let's get to the final 7th. This is diminished. There is no other triad like this that occurs in a major scale. And finally, you would get back to the root. So here's an exercise with diatonic triads that I like to use. Basically, it has you start on one and you go up and then you go down the second one. So I'll try to play it very slow. As you get comfortable, you may want to speed this exercise up or also try different rhythms and different articulations. This is also very good to learn in all 12 keys if you can. So now let's take diatonic triads a step even further and get some more jazz language out of our diatonic triads. Here's something that I heard John Coltrane do over the song Oleo. How pretty does that sound? So let's analyze this a little bit. We'll take it in pieces. So the first triad that I articulate is actually the triad on the 1, but in first inversion. And I get into it by doing what's called a leading tone, right? So I lead into it. Did you hear me just lead into the root? Listen one more time. So that's a 1 triad in first inversion. Now let's keep going with the exercise. The next triad that I go to is a 2 triad, minor 2 triad. So from 1, we go to 2. You hear me? That's how I'm landing on the 2. All right, so now we have our first 2 triads. Let's keep going. Another leading tone into a root position triad, right? Now let's keep going. The last 3 triads are based off of the 7 diminished, right? Then the minor 6, and then finally the 5. So when you put it all together, so let's review. We've talked about what a triad is, the different inversions of a triad, how you can do an enclosure exercise based on a triad. We even talked about the diatonic triads that exist within a major key, and we went through 2 different exercises that you can use to get through those progressions. Now let's see how you can use different triads and leading tones and enclosures to get through a progression. Let's take a 12-bar blues, for instance, in B flat. So for the first 2 bars, I might use my triad enclosure exercise. Then for the next 2 bars, let's use the diatonic exercise. And that lands us right on the 5 of the 4 chord. Now let's continue. Let's try to keep the same pattern here. So for the first 2 bars of that 4 chord, let's use the triad enclosing exercise. Now that's a 4th up, right? And then we go back to the root. So we can go back to our diatonic exercise. And then this bar, I like to do something a little special to give me some motion to go to that 5 chord. Give us some nice sound of the 5 going to the 2 chord. Now for our turnaround, I'm using a 2-5-1 sound. And here's something that I borrowed from the great trumpet player Clifford Brown. So let's hear what it sounds like when you put all of those exercises and those elements together over the chorus of a blues. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. So I hope this has been informative and you can see the different ways that you can use triads.